Hey folks, it's Nate. It's time I got back to the drawing board, and tonight we're back with Chapter 11 of Naoki Urasawa's Monster, one of my favorite manga of all time. And this is where we see Urasawa start to weave together the different threads he's been giving us. And this was really his master skill. Monster, as far as I know, is the first time he really showed what he could do with setting up these different storylines and bringing them together in ways that are incredibly satisfying, incredibly suspenseful, and incredibly interesting to watch. And this is Missing Person Article, as you might be able to tell just by looking at the page here. And this is, it's a good chapter in a number of ways. We're introduced to Mauer, who is a reporter for the local newspaper in, what is this? Hildenberg? What's the name of the? Heidelberg. There we go. Heidelberg. For the Heidelberg newspaper. And he's a slob. He's not very good looking. He's fat. He's divorced. He's chain smokes. He's unpleasant. He's kind of self-satisfied and thinks he's more important than he probably is. He's a very unpleasant character, and it's perfection. It's not exactly J. Jonah Jameson. He's not the editor. He's just a reporter. But he is a useful source of information, and he serves to kind of work as a sounding board for Dr. Tenma in this chapter. Tenma has come to the newspaper because the Heidelberg police don't want to tell him, they don't want to work with him at all. He's told them his story. He thinks that Johann came here with Anna and that Anna might still be here with a foster family, and he's worried that they are about to be in trouble since Johann seems to be going around cleaning up all of his foster families. And the police just laughed at him because that's pretty far-fetched. And honestly, Herr Mauer thinks he's kind of nuts too. But Mauer is at least willing to respect the amount of shoe leather hours Tenma puts in. He gives him access to the newspaper archives and leaves him there to dig through the newspaper archives in the off chance that there's a mention of Johann going missing, because obviously he wasn't in Heidelberg for the last 10 years. He stayed with all these other families in the 10 years in between. So there should have been something that happened when he went missing. Assuming he actually went missing and he didn't simply leave Anna here. But, I mean, Tenma needs any leading to go on. It's a long shot, but he's going to take it. After we get this set up, we go back to Anna/Nina at Heidelberg University. And she is still kind of tied up in this whole weird phantom emails that she's getting, somebody offering to bring her flowers, and of course at the end of the last chapter she saw Johann out of the corner of her eye in a distance, and it freaked her out so much she fainted. She actually talks about it with her psychologist, and she characterizes what she saw as pure evil. The psychologist is kind of surprised by that, but Nina says it's like the nightmares she used to have. It's a feeling of pure evil. And the psychologist says, well, that's theology, and I'm just a psychiatrist. Ultimately, the advice he gives her is, don't worry about it. Sweat it out in a keto practice, or focus on your future rather than your past. Don't worry if seeing this guy might help you recover memories, because honestly, you're doing pretty well without having to recover your memories. That's probably pretty good advice in most situations. Unfortunately, it's the fact that it's good advice that makes it kind of unfortunate in this situation. Because Nina is somebody for whom it's bad advice. But we'll get to that. So we cut back to the newspaper, and we discover that Tenma has been up all night going through the archives. Mauer finds him collapsed in there and takes him out for breakfast. And this scene with eating breakfast with Mauer is a great bit of character work, because in the last chapter we saw that Tenma was a much darker person than we had ever really seen him as in the past. A lot of his optimism as a doctor, as somebody who exists to save lives, a lot of his outgoing nature and altruism seems to have faded. However, here in this discussion with Mauer, we don't really learn a whole lot. We don't push the story forward any, but we get to know a little bit more about Mauer and his divorce, and Tenma just gives him some advice. He meddles a little bit for sure. He tries to push Mauer into going to see his wife, even though they're estranged, and it's good, wholesome advice. It shows that altruistic core that wants to help people, that wants to improve their lives, is still there in Tenma, even though he's become a little bit haggard, a little bit disheveled, even though he's gone on this personal crusade to try and track down Johann. Ultimately, this monster has not killed his sense of right and wrong. It has not killed his desire to help people. He's just put an extra layer on it that's made him very regretful. So this, I think, is probably the most important beat, well, second most important beat in this chapter. And it works because it gives us that character development, or character insight really, that tells us that even though Tenma has changed, and maybe not necessarily for the better, he still has all the potential to be a great heroic character with a strong moral core that he did at the beginning. And that's good. It shows us that Tenma's beaten down, but he's not beaten. So we have a brief scene change. We get some important information. Nina receives an email saying that her mysterious emailer is going to be waiting for her at Heidelberg Castle tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock, which is her birthday, her 20th birthday, which is, of course, when Johann plans to collect his sister. And then we go back to the newspaper office, where Tenma discovers the newspaper article that mentions a boy age 11 goes missing, possible kidnapping, and he gets the address of the Fortners, which is, of course, where Anna/Nina is now. And our chapter ends with Mauer looking through the file, and he finds Johann's birth certificate, or some document that has his birthday on it, and tells him that the twins' birthday is today. Because even when you're on the trail of a monster, it doesn't mean you'll necessarily catch him. But we'll see what comes of that in chapter 12. Until then, take care.